Congressman Adam Kinzinger taking time out of his busy day for us. Congressman, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
How's everything going this morning?
It's good. It's good. It's not as chilly as I was thinking it was going to be, so it'll be a nice day today.
Do you have any rooting interest?
Coffee injection.
Yeah, you got to get that coffee injection, then every day it looks nicer.
That's right. That's right. There's no bad days with coffee.
Any rooting interest for you in the NFL playoffs specifically?
I'm probably going to go for Seattle. I really tried to root for the Packers last night, and I just kept finding myself drawn to Seattle just because, my entire life I've been taught, as a toddler on to despise the Packers. So
good, you stuck with your upbringing. Me too.
That's right, and I really did try to go for the Packers, but I kept cheering for Seattle. So anyway, I go all the way with them, I guess.
All right. Congressman, we'll get to some of the State of the Union stuff in a bit, the president's tax hike proposal as well. We're going to go back to last week first, some votes in the House, 2 amendments on the president's illegal immigration orders, the executive orders, one going back to just the tail end of last year on those executive orders, and you voted yes on that. But on the one that went back a bit to the deferred action question and the president's executive action to take that route. You were one of 26 Republicans to vote against the Blackburn amendment, and a lot of people want to know, and that's why we're here, why? Why a no vote on that particular amendment?
Well, I appreciate it. I want to be clear. I voted to defund the president's recent orders, voted for all that. That's not going to come out of the Senate. I think that's what people need to understand. The Senate's not going to be able to do the same thing, so we'll have to deal with that. On DACA, and I voted against reversing what's called DACA before. Mm-hmm. Back in 2012, the president implemented this program. I voted against it when he implemented it. But what's happened since in the intermediary is hundreds of thousands of kids. These are what they call dreamers, kids of people that came here and they were basically 2 to 3 years old when they came over. They've come forward under this program. They've registered that they are here. This program has been existing for 2 years. So what the Blackburn Amendment would have done, and I have no apologies about voting against it, is it would have said, because it included renewals, so it would have said when your term has come up, which in some kids' cases is 6 months to a year from now, when your term comes up, it cannot be renewed, which means that now we have your address, now we know where you live, and by law, if we know where you live and we have your address, you're among the first to be deported. So what we will have done was taken these kids that have been here since they were maybe 2 years old. They came forward and registered so they go to college or whatever. And then we said, hey, thank you for your address. Now you're going back to a country you don't know. And I understand that, immigration and immigration reform is a very controversial issue within our own ranks as Republicans and in the whole country. But the one thing, I have compassion for folks that are here. And I believe that deporting people that were here since they were 2, that came forward and gave us their address, is not the message that the Republican Party needs to be sending, and I frankly don't think it's right. So I disagree with the president's overreach, but we've been 2 years in the making right here. The votes I just took on this recent executive order defunding, that just happened, and that program hasn't been implemented yet.
Does it send the wrong message, though, Congressman? Because I think you would agree that the president went about this the wrong way in the executive order, as opposed to going through a legislative procedure in the House and said, hey, if you want a DREAM Act, if you want a DACA, do it the right way. Does it send the wrong message that you would support continuing the program, though it was procedurally done in the wrong way and in a way that you disagree with?
Yeah, and that's the art of, frankly, governing and figuring out how you have to take the votes. And like I said, immediately when he did it, I sent that message. But, at some point, when it goes to 2.5 years, and this has been in order, it's really tough to turn around then and say, because we disagree with arguably whether the president had the justification through executive order to do that or not. And I think with the DACA issue, there's some question on whether he could legally do that or not. But then to turn around and say, yeah, but because I disagree with the president on how he did it, I'm going to deport hundreds of thousands of kids that are here. I just, look, I know it's tough, but there's 26 of us that are really ticked off about how the president did business and the president's combative tone that still believe you just can't vote as a party to deport children. I've got to say something to the bigger issue. We have to address immigration reform, and that doesn't mean amnesty. Amnesty is such a terrible word that people use to spin people up on this. I'm talking about fixing our broken borders and then talking about what we need to do to fix our system so that in 20 years our kids aren't here having the same argument because we owe them fixing problems. And you can't fix a problem with just border security, and you can't fix a problem without border security. So I think this is an issue, as Republicans, we have to kind of take a deep breath and engage on. It's not going to happen with this president because he's made it clear he doesn't want to work with us. But we're going to have to fix this when we become, when we get the White House in 2017.
Do you see down the line eventually more like-minded people coming together to work this thing out to where it is not such an adversarial approach?
Look, I think the vast majority, we've seen this in polling, even among Republicans, the vast majority of people want to fix the problem. The problem is it's become so toxic that if you even say, I support reforming the immigration system, I mean, on Facebook, on Twitter, and everything, people just scream that you're for amnesty and you love the president and you're a sellout. And a rhino and every other thing I can come up with. We've got to bring the temperature down a little bit and figure out how to implement our values, like border security and everything else, in a real immigration system that works, for legal immigration, but also understand, okay, let's have a grown-up conversation and say, you're not deporting 15 million people that are here. We're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. I know some people may want to, but we're not driving paddy wagons around neighborhoods and asking people that look Hispanic for their papers. It's just not going to happen. So what's the next step? And I think it's something that Republicans ought to be on the forefront of because this reflects our values. So it's a toxic issue, but it's one I'm not going to shy away from because I wasn't sent to be popular. I was sent to lead, and that's what I'm going to try to do.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger with us, Illinois 16th District. It's Riley and Scott on WROK, getting set for the State of the Union tomorrow. We already know a lot of what the president's going to lay out, talking about the leave days and free community college for all. And we found out over the weekend how he plans to try to pay for it, Congressman. It's through $320 billion in tax hikes, capital gains increase, and the one that we've pointed out this morning that people, I think, are going to be pretty upset about is, now, if it becomes law, that would be a far stretch because Republicans control the Senate and the House, but just that the president thinks that a proper way to pay for this free community college for all is to tax parents who are actually saving for college in their 529 plans.
Unreal. So as the details of this come out, it's going to be sickening. The other thing that's sickening is he wants to up the inheritance tax. Now, it's a brilliant political move for him because inheritance tax just sounds like, it's just rich people. But what inheritance tax will hit is, frankly, those in our district that have farms that are worth, a good amount of money. Mm-hmm. They don't have a lot of cash. Now, if they want to pass their farms on to that next generation, they actually have to sell part of the farm to pay for the taxes. I think the inheritance tax should be banned, period. But look, the president knows, he knows none of this is going to happen. But he's back to his old adage of divide and conquer. He's back to his old rich against poor, the 1% against the 99. He knows this won't happen. He is just setting up a battleground for the next 2 years that he can fight us on and say that we want to support the rich. Honestly, I think that while it's brilliant politics, I think this is going to wear very thin on the American people. And I'll tell you what, this is the 5th State of the Union I will have been to. Each time I actually go in optimistic that he's going to say something, maybe we can agree on it, get done. And even if he does, he just goes back to the White House and plays cards, and whatever he does there, doesn't reach out to Congress. It's going to be 2 years of battle. And this is where, as Republicans, let's get united here and understand that we're going to have differences among ourselves, especially when the presidential election kicks off. Some people are going to hate one person and love another or whatever. But we have got to get united in the big picture as Republicans because the next 2 years very much matters.
And, when you look at things that we've discussed this time and time again on this show, the obscenity that is the inheritance tax, the death tax, now we're going to double up on it, money that's already been taxed once, twice, sometimes 3 times. Why don't you give us a little bit more of that? I wonder when people as a whole who aren't looking at that, the 1% versus the 99 will get a belly full of this.
Yeah, and again, I can't tell you the number of, business owners that I talk to that cannot pass the business to the 3rd generation. They got it from their dad. Now they can't pass it to their son or to their grandkids because of the inheritance tax situation. And that's what you end up seeing is a lot of these businesses enter the 3rd or 4th generation and they get split off or they get purchased by, outside capital or something like that. It's just It's really, I think, frankly, inheritance tax is very un-American. You know, they say what are two things that are certain: death and taxes. I just didn't know they'd be combined. And so the president is not a serious president anymore. You know, he's more interested in sending James Taylor to play some goofy song for the French than he is in actually defeating terrorism and calling it Islamic jihadism. But we've got another 2 years of this. We're going to have to put our heads down and do battle, and America will succeed despite this president. We have an economy that's improving despite President Obama, and so it'll be interesting.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger with us here for another minute. It's Riley and Scott on WROK. You mentioned the war on terror and the Guantanamo Bay detainees. They continue to be transferred out despite the developments we've seen and the rate at which they return to a life of terrorism. Some senators are calling for a timeout to stop these transfers after the recent attacks. Might there be something brewing in the House similar to that?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be, but, you know, look, it's going to have to originate in the Senate. But I just don't get it. I mean, it's not even just the real, you know, threat that these guys pose to us, and they do pose a threat. They may not go back to the battlefield, and that's where the administration will say, well, they don't necessarily all go back to the battlefield. They may not, but they go back to the Middle East now as, in essence, motivational speakers. I spent 12 years in Gitmo, therefore I can inspire the next generation of jihadists. So while they may not pick up a rifle, they're basically the Medal of Honor winner that comes back to the United States to sell war bombs. That's what they're doing. And so, yeah, the president is sending a message to the Arab world and to the terrorists that America is in full retreat, and you're winning. Congratulations. Absolutely sick, absolutely wrong. But truthfully, he's detached. He doesn't care anymore, it seems like, and I can't understand it fully.
A lot of us scratching our heads over that one. Congressman, as always, thanks for taking time out of your day for us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me come on. Appreciate it.